Hello. To this point, you've been doing a lot of background work, and it's all been building on each lesson has been building on itself to give you some idea of where we're going, all the inputs and familiarity with your particular DMO and market. But in this one, and I consider this one of the most important chapters and lessons for building the foundation for moving forward, whether you go into this field or not. And if you're in any level of hospitality business or marketing for that matter, this is some of the most important skills and most important disciplines you will learn when building and applying marketing for whatever brand you're working with or creating. In this particular chapter, in chapter 6, they talk about, and I like the structure of this. There are courses written on and developed on this particular chapter or the items covered in this chapter. Now, I'm going to go through a few, I'm going to highlight a few that I have used to this day. I use these. And when I talk to other companies and I talk to organizations and DMOs, whoever I'm working with and whoever I've worked with across my career, I've learned to go back to these and I'll question board of directors, influencers, what have you, to kind of give this a litmus test. And we go back and we refine what is discussed in this. In my opinion, people don't spend enough time on this because this will drive the revenues and the success of the DMOs moving forward. So, given that, in this lesson, and I've made some notes here, so pardon me, and I'm going to go through the book and do this. Hopefully, I won't take too long. But we're going to cover the vision, mission, goals, and objectives. Let me tell you, goals will always be one of the things that I push back on you with, or I challenge you with. You're going to do a SWOT analysis, and you're going to go through that. That to this day, I do it with. I don't care if it's a coffee stand I was just helping somebody with, to a several $100 million organization, publicly traded. We go through these exercises. Okay, a steeple analysis unique to this industry, and Viro, V-I-R-O, resource model, used to this day. And honestly, you go to these trade shows and you go to these networking events. These things are discussed. This type of information, they may not know exactly the title of it, but this is the information that you're working with. So again, I think I've made my point about the importance of and the usage of this material. Now let me jump into this. Now marketing in its entirety is a forward-looking discipline. And where you'll often see the heads butt, and you covered some of it in the political areas and the influences and why people don't want to put money into this, and this, is because the finance guys, as I capture all of them, they are excellent at building a report card of things in the past. But they can't tell you that if you do X, Y is going to happen. They can give you a very good idea, but they cannot give you 100% certainty. Us marketing folks, we have to do that. We have to say, look, I'm going to do this. I'm going to invest this money to make this happen. And we have to pitch that idea with such strength and such background, analytical and subjective background and arguments, that it makes sense that people want to invest either time, money, emotion, travel, what have you, in our idea and what we're pitching. So that's part of your, part of what you're tasked with this semester. The framework, as it's outlined here, is it starts out with a vision, mission, vision, values, and mission. What do you want to be? And then you go into a situation analysis, which is a lot of people kind of pan over this, and I've seen students pan over this in the past. I don't want you to do that. Pay attention to what's going on in your, what the current state is. Now, the questions that you're going to answer or you're going to walk through, and you should always do this, is where are we now? All right, makes sense. What's the situation you're at? Where do we want to go? And how do we get there? These are core questions. I ask almost these exact questions. They outline it in the informal terms. And a lot of times when you're dealing with people, those are good questions to ask in that tone. But the formal terms are situation analysis, development of your goals and objectives, tactical implementation, and performance monitoring, or metrics, KPIs we call them, key performance indicators. All right. How do we know when we got there? Here's a perfect example. My sister-in-law, who is now on a trip, and I asked her through my wife, how is the trip to the Mediterranean going? You can imagine she's in the middle of handling a lot of people. She didn't have time to go back to the revenue and the expense and all that stuff. She said it was great. Where everybody's having a good time. Can you measure that? No, not at all. Did I expect anything different out of her? No. Unless there was some catastrophic event that she had to respond to. But my point is the KPIs were not applied there. When she gets back, she's going to do a KPI and a P&L to find out if that particular trip did well. On the other end, the DMOs that they are visiting will in turn say, okay, we brought you here. We spent money on getting you to come to our place or our destination. And was it worthwhile? So they will follow up with all kinds of analysis that they'll go through to determine if it was a quote unquote success or did it meet their goals. Okay, let me go into this a little bit more. After the situation analysis, you're going to develop your goals and objectives clearly. And then you're going to build the marketing plan to achieve those goals. All right. And that will affect the situation. Believe me, you'll see how all this loops together. The text gives you really good examples. The Marriott, Disney. American Express has got one, but my experience with American Express is they're not exactly the best at implementing their vision. They do a great job of what I call coasters. They develop great plans. But what they do after they develop those plans is they will fold them up, put them on the counter, and what they do is they'll take their coffee cups and put them right on top of it, and they turn out to be a very expensive, very time-consuming coaster. They dust them off every so often when they have to because of shareholder requirements. So run through these when you get a chance. They are wonderful. I like the Las Vegas Convention and Visitor Authority. Take a look at those. I like that, and obviously I live there. So anyhow, I'll go back to this, and I apologize. I'm running through a bunch of these. The steeple analysis, you will see some very good examples and explanations of that, much better than I could do it, because as you can tell, I sometimes stumble with my words. But STEEPLE is an acronym for socio-cultural, technology, economic, ecological, political, and legal. They all can affect and have an effect on your particular environment. You may have some trouble finding data and information on this. If you do, let me know. I may have resources that you do not have access to, and I'll be more than happy to share that with you. When you're going through your SWOT analysis, which we will talk, and I'll probably put out a video this week about it, it is important, and they have this in the critical point here, that an opportunity is not a tactic. And I believe the example they use is a tactic is something that, how do they do it? Something to do, like an opportunity is, hey, we're going to put out Twitter feeds, or we're going to upgrade their, TikTok or something along those lines. That's an opportunity. It's a great one, and I applaud you for going after that, but it's not necessarily a tactic. As they state here, if I can find it, a positive external force over which the DMO has no control. So, how can I state this? If you have an opportunity to do this, now you got to backtrack into the tactic, which is you are executing a Twitter feed to reach so many people with this call to action over this amount of time, by the end of, put a date on it, which gets me to a SMART analysis, which is again, the SMART acronym, which I use again to this day, which is SMART, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. Believe it or not, from a business standpoint, my wife and I had a discussion about goals, and I use the SMART acronym all the time. And this was a particular fitness goal, and she said, yes, but it has to be attainable. Okay. For me, the analogy with the fitness piece is I want to run a half marathon by the end of June of 2025, for example. Well, me being an overreacher, I said I want to run 5 of them, and I'm just giving you an example. So my wife pushed back and says, "Wait, is that attainable? I climb mountains. I do this." And I've learned to set my goals. There are specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound of what mountain I'm going to summit and when. 2 years ago, I did Kilimanjaro. It took me a year to reach that. A lot of people, including my colleagues at the university, thought it was cool, but how realistic and attainable was it? I proved them wrong. I've got another couple of pretty good summits coming up, and my wife, that was the actual pushback was, is that attainable within that time frame? Okay, apply that to your DMOs. What are your objectives in terms of measurable and attainable impact on the market, on your competitors, on your customers, all the relevant publics that you will be dealing with. Okay, if you got any problems with those and you need some help walking through that, again, let me know. All right. The viral model, valuable, rare. Again, these are all great abbreviations, acronyms. That's the word I was looking for. Valuable, rare, imitable, organized, and what's the status? And they give you a competitive disadvantage, parity, temporary competitive advantage, sustainable competitive edge, which I like that term. I'm from the sustainable competitive advantage school of thought, but I'm coming around to this edge school of thought, which is much more actionable. And I had a discussion when I first went through this several months ago. I called my friends here in Baton Rouge who run the Visit Baton Rouge DMO, and I said, let's have another conversation about all the things you're doing, them in the downtown development district. Does anybody really know it, and is it an edge? And we went through that exercise a couple hours. It was over lunch and stuff. So that happens, and I'm really liking this SCE instead of SCA, which is where I learned in grad school. Great stuff. And again, your textbook goes into the objectives. SMART, I call them goals. I rarely use objectives because I like to have that flag at the distance of knowing where I'm going and when I get there and how long it's going to take me to get there. So use that acronym as your litmus test for everything tactically you will wind up doing. The SWOT matrix tool, let me tell you, you can use that personally, and I suggest you do that from time to time. I walk several of my students that I mentor through that in an informal setting, but you can do it formally, and you should, and you will do this formally for your destination. Again, if you have trouble with this, let me know. I'm looking forward to the assignments coming up. Yeah. So that should be it. I've babbled way too long here. Thank you for your patience. If you have questions, as always, give me a shout, and hopefully more to come this week.